Welcome to the podcast. I know this is a little out of the ordinary, but I wanted to let you all know that the sound in this episode is not the greatest. Alyssa and I had to use a different recording program, and it caused a lot of hassle during the editing process. I considered re-recording the show, but this was such a great episode that I didn't want anyone to miss out on the content. Again, my apologies for the quality, but please bear with me, and I hope the podcast is good enough to really get everything out of what we had to say. Well, that's it for me. Now let's get on to the intro. Hey everyone, Joshua Gibson here, and you're listening to episode 50 of the Philosophical Weightlifting Podcast. Before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to the show's sponsor, BarShield. BarShield created a maintenance kit designed to prevent rust and restore spin to a barbell's sleeves. My discount code, PWPodcast, will get you 10% off of your entire purchase. It will also help me to continue producing great podcasts with amazing guests. Head over to barshieldUSA.com, pick up a kit, and get your bars looking and spinning like new. That's it for the intro. Now let's get on to this week's podcast with Alyssa Ritchey. And we are live. Today I'm joined by Alyssa Ritchey. Most of you may know Alyssa through Crossfit and or weightlifting. Alyssa, how are we doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
So for the people that don't follow you through weightlifting or haven't seen you in the CrossFit circuit, can you just give our listeners a background and what athletics you were involved in when you were younger and kind of how you got up to this point?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I started off with kind of a gymnastics background. I was a gymnast for like two and a half years, from about age 9 to 12, and then I decided to stop gymnastics and start like high school sports such as track and field. I skateboarded for a little while for like a fun little hobby, and then started volleyball as well. So leading up to my junior and senior year of high school, my coach decided to take me into a gym, like a weight training gym. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll go with you. And he just wanted to get extra training under my belt to get me better at track and field. So I went like once a week for about 3 months to improve my times for like the events that I did in track and field. And I ended up doing weightlifting in the time when I was like 15 to 17. So I did weightlifting for a little bit, once a week for 3 months. And that's kind of how I found out about all that stuff or about weightlifting. So I kind of knew what it was before everybody else knew. Mm-hmm. I remember like my dad being in the audience and like another girl's family being the audience for the Arnold Classic. Now it's like thousands of people in the audience. So it's changed a lot. It's grown. So I did that, and I got better at track and field. I ended up getting a scholarship to the University of Toledo, almost a full ride for track and field. I decided to stop doing track and field about almost the end of my freshman year. I just wasn't feeling it anymore. I just wasn't interested in it, so I stopped. I just lifted weights at the gym primarily, and then I started doing CrossFit. At about age, I want to say 23, I started picking up CrossFit and started doing it and fell in love with it. Did it for about 4 years, and then fell out of love with it, but like my body was just destroyed, and I just felt so tired, and I didn't have good nutrition back then, so I think that was definitely a big deal. Like all these women follow proper nutrition plans, and I didn't know how important that was. Heck, I was clueless about nutrition. So I finally said, I'm done. I want to just do strength programming, and I just want to get really strong. Well, that's when Chad Wesley Smith, owner of Juggernaut Training System, and he's my sponsor, he actually suggested I switch to weightlifting, and that's exactly how I came the weightlifting world. And that's like my background for sports. So 4 years of CrossFit, a couple years of gymnastics, about 6 years of track and field, and some other little random things thrown in there.
Okay, I'm kind of curious to hear what events you competed at in track and field. I'm going to assume they weren't like the longer distance running events.
No, my mom, actually, this is funny. My mom, when I was little, was like, you should, this was probably my seventh grade, when I was able to join track. She was like, you should definitely do the long distance because you are short and little and you won't be good at the hurdles. I was like, Mom, I'm doing the hurdles. Like, that's what I'm going in to do. Like, well, I just don't want you to like not be able to do them because you're so little and stuff. I was like, Mom, I'm doing the hurdles. I went into track and field, and the first day I did the hurdles, I was like super good at them. We worked at them all the time, and I ended up being undefeated like my whole entire like 7th and 8th grade year. Set the records and everything, and then went into 9th, 12th grade in high school and did really well. Was like undefeated all the way until I reached regionals, and just did really well. So yeah, I did the hurdles, the 100 hurdles, the 300 hurdles, and the long jump, and then I did some 4x1 relays. And I also did, I think that's it, 100 meter sprint too.
Do you feel like you had an innate athleticism?
Say again, sorry. Did I feel like I had innate?
Yeah, like innate athleticism, like an inborn ability to succeed in athletic events.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of what I have is genetics. But I also think the reason I'm so good at it is because of my drive, my mental abilities in sports. I put all my 100% efforts into everything I do, whether it's a relationship or raising, an animal or doing, raising plants or whatever I do. I try to put 100% effort into it, especially when it comes to athletics. I think that's just something I've always loved and always been like super excited to do. I just have a super big passion for it.
So I guess kind of a similar question. Do you think you were just naturally like you had a tendency to just kind of put a lot of effort into anything that you pursued? Because I know a lot of people find that as a difficulty kind of at the outset, and then it develops as they get better at something. But for you, was it just like a natural urge to just like whatever I'm going to do, I just want to kind of be all in? Yeah.
So it's actually goes along with the story I kind of tell some people, like skateboarding, for example. Everyone is like, whoa, you skateboarded? I can totally see that. So what I used to do when I was younger is I had this boyfriend. He skateboarded, and he was like, my mom challenged me and him to a challenge at the end of the summer, like the game of force for basketball, but instead it's called skate for skateboarding. So you do it if whoever gets to start off leads with the trick, and then I have to try the trick, and then so on and so forth. And if I can't land it, I get an S, and if he can't land it, he gets an S. First person to spell skate loses. So at the end of the summer, I ended up winning. And it's because I would always go out to the barn, and it was our pole barn. We had a full entire skate park in there. We ended up buying the old skate park from our town, Waseon, Ohio. We ended up buying like all the equipment that they were going to throw away because they had all the new equipment for the new skate park. So we went and bought it for like $20 and put it in our barn. We had a couple quarter pipes. We had like 5 rails. We had a box and like a bunch of other stuff. So every day after school, I would literally set my bag inside, change into my skating outfit, which is just shorts and a t-shirt. And then I would grab the radio, turn it on, and I would sweep the barn before I started for any little pebble rocks so it don't die, fall off the board. And I would skate for, I'm not even kidding, like 6 hours a day.
Yeah. Sorry. I was just going to say, yeah, a lot of people don't know when you're skateboarding, if you hit the smallest rock and your wheel catches, like you're flying forward.
Done. So I think like it just kind of shows my love for anything I do athletically, especially because there was a night where my dad actually had to turn the electricity off in the barn because I wouldn't come in. And I was mid-trick, mid mid on the quarter pipe, like riding up, and then turn around, and as soon as I come down, the lights go off, and I'm like, oh my gosh! So I jumped off, came inside, and my dad's like, next time I tell you to come in, you come in. And I was like, I almost landed this trick, Dad. He's like, it's school night, Alyssa. Like, there's bedtimes.
So I'm kind of curious, besides the track and field and obviously gymnastics, which both will have great carryover to weightlifting simply because you have to become stronger and more mobile and quicker, do you feel like there was any aspect of skateboarding that maybe influenced the way that you approach weightlifting or kind of helped you, maybe even if it was on the mental side of things?
I think that just as who I am and who I was born to be, or who I, grew up to be, I think that all my sports influenced who I am now, especially with like gymnastics. My coach wasn't the nicest, so I think that influenced me to, no matter what my struggles are, no matter what my successes are, I always push 100%, and nothing can really drag me down because as a 9-year-old with age 12, it was a very hard coaching atmosphere. So I can pretty much handle any coach now because of her, which I thank her for that. As with skateboarding, I think it's like those tricks are not hard to land, and it's constant like try. Even if you get like pummeled in the private area and you're falling to the ground without a breath, you get back up and you try again. I think also the balance portion of skateboarding, the body awareness, just like in gymnastics, like that's huge. You have to really know where your body is at with weightlifting. Also, you have to know how your body moves along with the bar, or you have to learn how to move the bar, right, in a specific manner. And if you don't move it correct, if you don't move the bar correctly or use proper technique for these lifts, there's not going to be a good outcome.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of courageousness that comes along with skateboarding, like especially if you're on a half pipe where you're kind of coming up into the air and you're coming down on another object and hoping that you can kind of land and be secure. So I think that helps develop confidence when you're approaching like a heavy barbell, that you have to move around and stabilize, and you're relying on that thing to be in the right spot as you would be a skateboard.
Absolutely. You have to keep it attached to your feet, maybe by like how it stays to your feet, but you have to like ollie at the right time on the quarter pipe to make sure the skateboard stays on your feet, and then you land it properly. If you don't land it exactly in the correct spot, you will seriously catch your wheel or catch your bearing and you fall. I definitely think it gave me a lot of confidence, for sure, especially with like failure. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to fall on my butt. I just get back up like it's another day and just keep going, trying again.
And transitioning to CrossFit, how was that experience for you as a whole? I'm sure there's a lot that you learned and a lot that you went through that has obviously set you up for more success in weightlifting. But if you could kind of develop your exposure to it and then your experience doing it and then doing it at a high level.
Yeah, when I was exposed to it, it was kind of like a time in my life where I just wanted to be back in a sport. I tried fitness, like modeling and whatever it was called, a physique show, and I just hated it because I don't like somebody judging the way I look. I love the way I look, regardless if I'm fat, weak, skinny, or as muscular as a woman can get. So when I first was introduced into CrossFit, I was actually like working out in the gym, and I was doing like handstand push-ups, handstand walks, box jumps, strict toe to bar, all these like CrossFit movements. And people were like, "Are you a CrossFitter?" I was like, "A what?" And a CrossFitter, like, they do like those mud run things. I was like, no, I don't do mud runs, and I have no idea what CrossFit is. So I got asked that a couple times. I actually got asked that while I was waitressing too at work. And then, ironically, how I fell into it was because this couple said, "Do you guys have Wi-Fi?" And I was waitressing at the time, and I said, "Yeah, I do." And they're like, "Oh, we're trying to look up the WOD of the day." I was like, "The what?" And they're like, "The WOD." And I was like, "What's the WOD?" And they're like, "Workout of the day for CrossFit." I was like, okay. this couple's a little older, like probably 35, 40s. And they're like, it's CrossFit. And I was like, okay. I was like, pull up a CrossFit video for me. I want to know what the heck this CrossFit stuff is, because everyone keeps asking me if I'm in it. And so that's how I fell into it. I looked it up. I did my first workout I ever did, and it was at the University of Toledo in their gym. It was JT, handstand push-ups, and ring dips. Well, I didn't know a thing about CrossFit, so I was just moseying on through it, doing strict ring dips, strict handstand push-ups, and then push-ups. And I was just like, I finished it within like 5 minutes, but I didn't like know it was for time. So I was like walking clear across the gym doing my handstand push-ups, walking clear back to do my dips, walking to do my, and I wasn't rushing, but I did everything like unbroken. And then I was like, okay, well, this is weird. It's not that hard. So I went to found a gym, and they asked me to join, and I got a muscle up within I tried a muscle up for the first time and got it first try. And I already could do handstand push-ups on a ring, like 5 of them. I could do my back squat was terrible. I could barely reach parallel. So that was terrible. But I knew what snatch and clean and jerk was. So I knew what CrossFit was. Then I just started going and doing it for an hour a day for class. And then it turned into starting their extra competitors program at the gym. I would do an hour before I went to school, and then I would do an hour after school, and then I would go work. So my days would be wake up at 5 a.m., go to the 6 a.m. class, get done by 7, catch the bus to school by 7:30, and that's college. And then I would go to school all day and have these hour in-betweens, and I would study in between so I could go get my strength programming done or extra competitors programming done at 3, and then I'd have to be at work by 4:30.
Okay, and reflecting back on your stint in CrossFit, what was your best competitive memory?
I think it was the muscle up clean ladder one. It was there was that point of holy cow, I just won a strength portion in CrossFit. I know there was muscle ups before, but I literally broke. I missed my last one, had to have the judge lift me up to the rings, and I finished it. And then I remember my friend was to her final barbell before I even touched my second to last barbell, and she kept failing, and I ended up beating her. I hit all the bars one time, and I crushed it. So that was probably my most favorite memory, because I was able to hang with the big chicks and win that workout in my region. And that was the central super region at the time.
And on the flip side of that, what was the worst memory during your competitive CrossFit career?
When the judge called a no rep on the last workout of the last rep of the weekend, and I was in 3rd place getting ready to go to the CrossFit Games. And I was running to my finish mat, and all of a sudden she changes. It's she changed her mind. She called no rep when I started running to the mat. It was heartbreaking. It was my world stopped. I went back to the bar, and I looked at it, and I thought, 135 at my size for 6 overhead squats, wasn't just doable to snatch up and just try again. I mean, for somebody like Michelle Kinney, because that's the girl that beat me, or Katrin David's daughter, that's sissy weight. But for me, I have to really concentrate, especially after 64 pull-ups. Yeah, that was a heartbreaking moment, but it took me a while to get over that too. It took me a while, because I was run away from going to prison.
And then looking back at that, is there anything you would have done differently?
Held that rep. I would have just held it longer. That's it. I mean, I did everything I needed to do. I crushed the weekend. I stayed in pretty much 4th and 3rd all weekend. I was 2nd at one point. I did everything I should have done, and it just, at the end of the day, it didn't work out for me.
So why'd you make the transition from CrossFit to weightlifting?
It was just a point where my body was just dead. And like I said before, my nutrition was terrible. I would eat whatever I wanted because everyone was in that stage of like, oh, I work out. I can eat whatever I want. And I was like, oh, cool. Me too. So I would, I'm not kidding. I would finish like half a pack of Oreos in one sitting. But that's like on top of eating like a burger and white potatoes and canned green beans and farting beans too. Like I would have those too. So all the carbs in the world. And I felt like that just like destroyed me. I had no knowledge of my nutrition. So like my protein intake was probably like half of what I get now. So I was probably getting like 50 grams of protein or like less, maybe 40 for the day. Think about that. For like a high level CrossFitter, you have to be getting like at least 1 gram per pound of body weight, if not a little tiny bit more, right? So I wasn't even like eating like breakfast sometimes. I just go in there and work out for hours and hours, and then I wouldn't refuel myself during the workout either. I would just keep going until I finish.
So I guess this is an easy question to answer after you just said that, but do you feel like you reached your potential, and then what do you feel like you were capable of had everything been perfect?
I definitely think if I would have followed a good nutrition plan, like my coach had told me, I should have listened. I was not listening, especially to that. Because I was like, I'm fine. I can eat whatever I want. I've done this like my whole life. No, I was wrong. I should have followed a nutrition program. I think if that would have lined up with taking a little more rest and having more of a, like, not so crazy program, like just do, like kind of like Rich Froning says he does, like do workouts what you feel like doing for the day, or have like certain, workouts and like have it scheduled more throughout the day versus one clump. If I would have done like 2 a days or a few hours in the morning and a few hours at night, I think that would have been the ideal situation for myself, for the best outcome for myself as a CrossFitter. Good in I was good in gymnastics. I was decent at strength. I should have gotten stronger. I should have, focused more on my strength, like I was going to do. And then I switched to weightlifting somehow in there.
So who introduced you to weightlifting, like competitive weightlifting?
I kind of knew, like I said, about it in high school. I had done like the American Open and stuff when I was a CrossFitter for fun. So just for like extra training on like the lifts. And I was always good at it. Then I went to, like I said, when I went to Chad Wesley Smith, that's who basically introduced me to not the sport, because I knew the sport existed. I just didn't want to be a part of it. I just didn't think it was I just didn't know if I would love it. So I didn't want to be a part of it. And especially because after all that happened in CrossFit, if I don't love something at the end of the day, I'm not going to put my heart into it. So Chad Wesley Smith basically said you should do weightlifting because you're going to be good at it. You're small, you're tiny, but you have to make a big weight cut in order to be in the weight class that you should be in. So I said, okay, and that's kind of how I transitioned to weightlifting.
So what were your numbers when you, like, right at the peak of your CrossFit career, like the snatch, clean and jerk, and maybe even the squats? And then what are your numbers now, so we can get an idea of like how much you've developed since then?
Oh my goodness, I have kilos now. Okay, well, I have my phone right here. I can calculate it. So in CrossFit, I think my best match was, mind you, okay, so this is a big deal too. I was 55 kilos, 53 to 55 kilos in CrossFit. Now I sit at, this training, I sit at about 51.5 kilos, and I compete at 49 kilos. So my snatch in CrossFit was, I think my best I ever hit was 170. And then my clean and jerk was 210 at 53 to 55 kilos. And then in weightlifting, since I do kilos now, My best clean and jerk is 230. And my best snatch is 180. That's like that's kind of, sorry, my boyfriend just got home and he stopped. So that's like a big difference, but you got to remember, like, I'm primarily focusing on just weightlifting too. But my back squat was awesome, actually. My back squat was, for like a 1 rep, I think it was like 270, and now it's almost 300, and at a way smaller body weight. But now I'm like back squatting what I used to only be able to squat for 2 in CrossFit for like 8 times.
Jeez.
It's pretty crazy.
So how easy was the transition? Did you start seeing success really quickly, or was it kind of like a lot of work and then you started seeing that?
I saw it pretty quick because I was new, so you're going to see those, best numbers be hit pretty quick. I saw a plateau probably within the first 7 months of weightlifting. I started seeing my numbers kind of like become stagnant. So I was kind of like, shoot, here we go. So it took me a long time. Actually, I just recently, like, I'm not even kidding, maybe a month ago, started correcting my technique on front squat. And at this last competition last weekend, I crushed a 102 kilo clean and jerk at 49 kilo body weight. And that was primarily because I honed in and crushed my technique on front squats. I just made sure I was going down in proper position, coming out of the hole in proper position, and using my quads, my legs, instead of using my back. Looking back on when you started, if you could have given yourself some advice, what would you tell your weightlifting beginner self? What would I tell my weightlifting beginner self? Wow. I don't know. I would just tell myself I've kind of done everything I've wanted to do since the beginning. In CrossFit, I used to get pretty angry and come home pretty upset and take my training home with me. And I feel like weightlifting, I've grown so much as an athlete, and I have learned to love my training versus just get so angry if I miss a lift or if something doesn't go right. I get so angry and I just take it all throughout the day. Now I know how to let it go. Once I walk out of the gym, I just let it go. It's another day of training the next day. So yeah, that's great advice, because I feel like a lot of people, sometimes they'll have a bad session and then they feel like that defines their training up until that point, when in reality it's like it's such a bigger picture thing of like, what have you done over the last 8 weeks or 12 weeks or however long the training cycle is. It's not just like you missed a bunch of snatches today, but that's going to be perfectly fine the next training day or the day after. Yeah, I think like this week, for example, after a huge competition this weekend, I had to decrease my reps by half, and I had to decrease the weight by like 10 kilos each lift because my body is not feeling it. My body doesn't want to do it. What do? I just do it. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't worry me because I know next week it'll be all back to normal. I'll be just fine. It's same thing with the week before a competition. You don't feel your best. You feel kind of like crap. So what happens is you either can get angry at that and not trust your programming, or just relax, get through the week, and compete. So when do you kind of decide that, like when to push forward, when to really try and make lifts, even when it seems slightly out of reach, versus, hey, today it's not there, let me pull back and then save it for another training session? Is there a time in your, between competitions where it's more important than others to kind of push forward and really, I guess, put the pedal to the metal? I would say I do it more so on squats than actual clean and jerk lifts or any drills that we do with the clean and jerk and snatch. I think a risk of injury is my biggest thing I'm trying to stay away from. So pushing myself to a limit in clean and jerk and snatch is probably not the best, especially if my like form's not perfect or spot on or my head's not in it. As for back squat and front squat, I have to push through that because that makes me super strong for my, clean. That's where I kind of have my biggest struggle on. As snatch, it's not as important to try to push your hardest all the time because it's such a technical lift. If you're performing it properly, sometimes the weight can just magically appear on the bar and you can just magically lift it. Whether you feel like crap or feel like the best. But yeah, I feel like there's a time and a place to push, and I feel like I push in the squats more than I do in the actual drills for clean and jerk and snatch.
Okay, interesting. And I guess kind of piggybacking off of that, have you experienced any injuries throughout your, I guess, like your time in athletics in general that have been like nagging you to this day or that were really big and forced you to kind of change a lot of your training?
No. I have. My shoulder actually was pretty bad in CrossFit, and I had to sit out for a good half year. But I ended up somehow making it to regionals and doing really well. But other than that, in weightlifting, I have not, knock on wood, wherever some wood is, yet to experience any type of injury. They're all just like, I had this one like behind the knee problem from CrossFit. I was doing a thruster, and I came out of it something like, I think it was my hamstring attachment. It kind of like, I felt it kind of like pop, but I didn't hear it. I just felt it, and that's like probably another thing that kind of nags me. If I catch a really heavy clean, really hard in the bottom, that can sometimes nag. My shoulder honestly doesn't ever bother me unless I'm doing muscle snatches. So we don't do muscle snatches. We stay completely away from them because it irritates my shoulder.
And you talked about it a little bit earlier, but is it just the fact that you're diligent about when to push forward and when to pull back that you would attribute to your lack of injuries? Or do you think it's just like something else, like being more technically focused or something like that?
Kind of a combination of all. I'm just smart.
Yeah.
As a 29-year-old athlete now, I think that just being experienced throughout my time, especially in CrossFit, I taught myself that like, go, train all the time. Like, you're going to get bad if you give yourself a rest day. Now it's like, give me all the rest, get better. So just smarter with my rest days and smart when I'm just not feeling it. I pull back a little bit, and I'm totally 100% okay with pulling back a little bit.
Okay. And as far as your nutrition goes, you touched on it earlier, but what changes have you made that you feel like have impacted your performance?
Yeah, so I started working with RP. It'll be 2 years this September. And I just loved, let's rewind a little more. I tried working with RP and CrossFit, like at the end of the last year I competed as an individual in the regionals, and I tried it for a month and I totally completely failed it. And I was like, okay, forget it. Like, I'm just going to try to be a little better with my choices. Just not have an Oreo or 50 Oreos every night. I'm going to try to eat like a little more healthy. So I tried, and it just didn't work. It just failed. So when I started weightlifting, I knew I had to cut a bunch of weight. I had to cut from 55 kilos to 48 kilos in 10 weeks. Which on my YouTube video, you can kind of, on my YouTube page, you can see that. I talk all about it in the YouTube video. It's pretty funny, actually. But yeah, I made that cut, and that's kind of when my nutrition started becoming a huge factor in my life. And I started realizing RP, and I totally worked with RP through it, but I never actually got the one-on-one help. I actually ended up doing it very majority of the first weight cut myself. Like, I asked Nick a few questions here and there, but I did a lot of it because I read all the material they gave me. So I was able to kind of figure it out for myself. And I did just a lot of research on YouTube and online in general. Anyways, fast forward, I've done 7 weight cuts since, and I've been successful at every single one of them, crushing every single one of them very well. And once, basically, question, totally forget.
a lot of people do have trouble taking control of their nutrition and trying to optimize it for their performance. And sometimes like there's a barrier of just making the change. So what would your advice be to someone that wants to dial it in, but just doesn't know where to start?
There's really no like right starting point, right? There's really no like, the biggest thing is just get with someone that like does nutrition, like get on a plan. That's my biggest thing. Get a plan and get some help. If you don't know what you're doing, then somebody out there in this huge world we have knows how to help you. Also work with someone that's like flexible and easy to work with. Work with someone that's like similar goals you have, or similar to like easy to work with, very positive to work with, there for your journey.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think a lot of times people that are well versed in a field like nutrition are more than happy to be open about what the basics are and how to kind of, after working with them, eventually going out on your own and developing a healthy plan yourself. Like, the information's there. You just have to find the person to provide it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, college is great and all, but like I feel like everything online is there. As long as you know how to kind of like know what you're looking for, there's pretty much so much information online that you can research something and figure out kind of what to do. Like, I don't know, I guess, but I would definitely go with a nutrition coach for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm kind of curious, when you went to the University of Toledo, what did you study and how did that end up influencing where you're at now?
I actually went to the University of Toledo for 2 years, and I switched to Grand Valley State University up in Allendale, Michigan. And I graduated from there with a bachelor's in exercise science. And I did it with a clinical emphasis, so like more science related, more science in depth. That way I could take the route of becoming, say like any like really heavily science related professions. Like I could go try to take a few more classes and be a doctor or be a nurse or do this kind of stuff, science related stuff. And I think I've always had a passion for science because I've always been an athlete and I love the way my body works. So I think it's pretty darn obvious why I chose that route.
Yeah, and I think that school is great for teaching you how to look for information and think critically about it and evaluate what is right about it and what is wrong about it and who's telling you what. Is there anything else from that degree that you think has helped or influenced the way you kind of operate to this day? It doesn't have to necessarily be with training, but just in terms of like confronting information or interacting with people.
No, honestly, I think it was a waste of money. I'm not even
Boom.
I don't think school makes people successful. I think people make people successful. I think going out and doing what you love and want to do makes you successful. So somebody could open up a business and never have any schooling and they could be a millionaire, right? They just have to kind of land the right thing. They have to do what makes them tick or what people want to see in the world. But I also think school is a great route for people that want to go and be a doctor or want to go and be an engineer. Those bigger degrees that need schooling. But I do not think school makes a person successful. I think a person makes a person successful. Their drive, their ability to want to do things, their passions. That's because you can see people with degrees all the time that don't use them. And then, or they're like, yeah, I just hated what I did, so I went back and got another degree because my degree didn't work for me.
Yeah, and I think the reason it's correlated, the success in people that have pursued college and graduated, is just because they had to go out of their way to go to college and they had to go out of their way to put in the work and effort to graduate. And that in and of itself, like, tells something about that person's character.
It's the same thing as athletics, right? We train and train and train to get the best we can be at competition and to be number one in the world, whatever. Same thing. School, we study to graduate. The the best we can at our degree, to get a degree, to go into that job and be the best we can, to succeed. In sports, we want to succeed. In life, we want to succeed. So I think school is just an option that we're very lucky to have, but it's definitely not necessary at all in everybody's life. You can be successful without, or definitely can be successful with it.
Yeah, and it's important to recognize that after that degree, like the learning doesn't stop, and sometimes that gets into people's heads. They're like, "Oh, I graduated, I know all I need to know," but it's like that's just the beginning.
Oh my goodness, totally true. Just the beginning, because you have to, like, my boyfriend's going to school for nurse anesthetist degree, and he, there's always continuing education, right? It's not just going to stop when you get out of school. You're always going to constantly be researching. I remember his dad saying, like, he researched, like, every day, constantly doing research, looking up new articles, making sure his knowledge on his, profession has been, stays informed about all the new things that are coming out. Or it's like teachers going and getting, credits because they need to update their, knowledge for their profession. So
yeah, and a lot of people get kind of caught up in that whole idea that someone else is going to make them successful because they have this degree. But like at the end of the day, you put in the amount of work that you want to reflect back on, like how much you know, right? So if you don't go home and then start studying your craft and trying to get better, like that's reflected in the quality of content you put out. And it determines your level of success. And that's why you're as successful as you are. All other great weightlifters are, is because they're willing to put in more work outside of the gym with their nutrition, with their recovery. Like they eat, sleep, and breathe literally like weightlifting.
Yeah, I actually had this happen to me the other day in CrossFit class, because I usually take a week off of, like, not a week off weightlifting, but I do start joining the class after I compete for CrossFit and just do light workouts. But a guy asked me, he asked me about, like, you're so good, and, like, basically, like, they don't understand that you have to give up a lot in your life to be the best you can be at your sport. It's just the same thing as, like, a medical student going to medical school. He has to give up his whole entire life to sit in that library and study all day. I have to give up a lot of what I do. I don't get to go out to eat with my family all the time. I don't get to have that awesome dessert on my counter. I don't get to walk my dog 50 times a day or go to the park and walk on long trails because I don't want to make my legs tired. So there's certain stuff that you kind of have to, like, cut out. I don't get to go mountain biking all the time like I enjoy. When we lived in Colorado, I remember having to, like, I didn't get to go on hikes all the time. I didn't get to, like, go mountain biking all the time. And if I did, it would reflect so hard in my training. My training would be like crap. So, and that was just because I made myself tired. I did extra work that I shouldn't have been doing.
Well, I'm sure for them, like people that ask that, they're looking at the time they spend in the gym and they're thinking, like, how do I optimize this time? But for you, it's how do I optimize the time that I'm awake to when I'm asleep? It doesn't stop from when I enter the gym to when I exit the gym. Like it's always going.
Totally get it. It's so true. You have to get a certain amount of sleep. You have to, if you want to get some work done, like I'm trying to build up. I'm actually going to start doing nutrition planning for people. I have such a huge passion about it. I'm going to start it, and I get up super early so I can get that stuff done. And then I'm able to get to the gym about 10 a.m., train until I'm finished, and then come back. And honestly, when I come back, I am so freaking tired. I have no thoughts. So if I don't get up early and get to bed early, there's no time to get actual work done for me. So there's always optimizing as much of my making smart choices throughout my day and the day before to optimize my training and then my schedule for the next day.
Yeah, and it's things completely change when you're training multiple times a day as well. I think a lot of people think of like being fatigued and being tired and, well, if I go out and go for a hike, like it's going to impact my training. But things change a lot when you train multiple times a day. And I don't think a lot of people can understand the gravity of that unless they actually do it. Like the AM session is one thing, but then mentally and physically, you have to be prepared for the PM session, and then it's a quick turnaround back in the morning. And that's something you don't understand unless you experience it, speaking first-handedly myself. So a lot of this may not connect to people listening, but I understand completely where you're coming from, Alyssa.
Yeah, it sounds like you do, because it's nice to hear. Some people definitely do, but I saw some people getting like frustrated in my gym today, like kicking a box and like getting kicked and throwing the F-bomb out there, and I was just like, because they missed the snap, the clean and jerk, and it's like, I understand you're upset, but you have to understand this isn't your life.
Mm-hmm.
This is something you come in, do on your leisurely, like your time that you have dedicated towards making your body healthy. Do what you can do.
Mm.
Be realistic about your goals, because your goals aren't trying to be matching like 500 pounds. Your goals are just to be in there, snatching for fun and lifting with people and making your body healthy. Like, I would never do the snatch if I wasn't a weightlifter, first of all. I would just be squatting and probably just like the bare minimums in CrossFit, because I just wouldn't want to do all the fancy stuff. Because, just for me, that would be my idea, is just staying healthy once I'm done with the sport, and just making sure I'm eating properly. And I don't know, I just think you got to look at your goals realistically and what you truly want versus what the idea in your head, like the dream land. It's totally okay to dream, because I'm a huge dreamer, but there's also that check of reality.
Mm.
You have to kind of like, there's the dreamland and then there's the reality. You got to like learn how to make those lands combine and like play in both. Like, oh, this is reality. Okay, well, this is my dream side. Okay, well, I have to go to reality, because you have to have a job. Like, you can't just pay your bills with your dream. You have to work. So, like, now I get paid full time. Like, I get paid to be a weightlifter. Like, that wasn't a reality in CrossFit. Like, that was not something I could do with CrossFit. I just had no opportunity for being paid as an athlete. So I'm able now to not work and just be a CrossFitter full time. I mean, just be a weightlifter full time. So that's like that dream becoming a reality. So
yeah, I think it's important for people listening to recognize that when you're appraising Alyssa's performance on Instagram or on YouTube, or you see her to meet and you're thinking like, wow, I would love to do that. You have to realize that like there's a certain amount of training required and a certain amount of time commitment and dedication required to become that good, because there is a plateau, like you said. Yeah. When you started out, you hit a plateau, and what gets you past that plateau? It's training a little bit more, focusing a little bit more on your nutrition and your recovery. So people that come in and want to snatch 150 at 85, it's like, well, that's great, but what it requires to do that, you just can't do that. There's just no physical way.
It takes years and years and years and years. And I believe because I had the years and years and years, the background of sports that I had led up to this point where I have been like chosen as one of the best weightlifters in the country, right? Because of all that hard work I did throughout gymnastics, track and field, being introduced to weightlifting at a young age, becoming this strong woman that I've become throughout my life has built me up for this point today. I never thought I would be trying to make a goal to go to the Olympics for weightlifting. I always thought it would be gymnastics. And if it wasn't gymnastics, I honestly didn't think it was anything. It just wasn't a goal anymore. It just wasn't, it's that dream and reality land. Like, that was dreamland. Now reality, you're done with sports. You're like 20, there's no opportunity for gymnastics anymore. Like, gotta move on. Just lift, stay healthy, love what love your body. Stay healthy. Yeah,
that's huge. Staying healthy. I think there was a quote I actually put up on Instagram, and I don't know if a lot of people understood it, but it's the best ability an athlete can have is availability. And what that means is like the availability is in being injury free and being able to train and put in the amount of time that it takes to reach the Olympics, right? As soon as you experience one injury, your quality of training is decreased, and that's time that everyone else that's training is improving.
Absolutely. Totally.
So do you have any, obviously besides nutrition, do you have any tips or tricks or things you like to do for recovery or outside of the gym, or like a warm up or a cool down or something like that?
Yeah, I get massages at least twice a month, sometimes 3, depending on how bad my body feels. But these massages aren't like comfortable; they're like very uncomfortable, and like depending on where I'm at in relativity to competition, I get more deep tissue versus like a softer, just a flush for my muscles. I also do the compacts. I love the compacts. I have learned to really, I know some people don't believe in it, but I think it freaking works well. If nobody knows about the compacts, Compacts USA, it's like a little e-stem machine that you can, it's portable. It's a little pricey, but definitely worth it. So that's what I do as well, and I feel that helps. Also, I rest, man. I like my whole life. Like, I guess I haven't learned to utilize my rest enough, but these past like 3 years, like rest has been my biggest factor in doing anything. So.
Okay, and just kind of the similar questions that we had for the competitive aspect in CrossFit. Do you have favorite moments from when you started weightlifting to now, maybe in a competition or in training, something that really sticks out as like a bright spot?
For weightlifting?
Yeah.
Last weekend. Holy crap. Last weekend was incredible. It was like I had no pressure, but it was like me against me, right? You hear that saying a lot, but it truly was, because it was like I had nobody to compete against. Nobody was there that was like on Team USA. It was just me against me, and it was, we hit the weight. If we don't, we don't. Like, that's all there was to it. It wasn't like, this is it. The end all if you don't make these lifts. So I think that was probably my favorite. I mean, hitting that 102 as a 49 kilo weightlifter for a clean and jerk was awesome. I could have done more. 110% could have done more. I actually almost put 105 on the bar.
Jeez.
But I was like, don't be cocky. Because you have another chance at American Open 3. Like, just chill out and just hit 102, get a high enough total so it's kind of hard for the other women to reach. Because, right now we're just trying to make world team. And that's the most important start of the 2 years leading up to the Olympics. So I was smart. I did 102. I made it easy, and can't wait to do more.
So did you learn anything from that experience that you feel will influence like the way you compete at the AO3 or at the AO finals or nationals or the next few big meets?
I actually did. I learned to trust my openers. I learned to trust my abilities more on stage, because sometimes, like, I did it even at the AO2. I kind of was like, I didn't have my coach. Max Ado wasn't there. He's my coach for weightlifting. I actually told him to stay home because I was like, this meet's not that important. It's fine. Ends up being the best meet of my career. Sorry, Max.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing for me was be confident in yourself for the openers, because your abilities are so much greater than you think. Like, you're able to crush some freaking heavy weights. So trust it. Keep it on the bar and just go lift it. And also, like, the comeback. I missed 80 on my second attempt. It was right in front of me. Every time I noticed this, and I didn't realize I was doing it until this American Open 2. It's not the issue of, like, I'm not strong enough to lift 80 or more. I'm not giving myself the credit that I should be giving myself. I walk up there and I think, pull hard, because I don't want it to go behind me. Don't even think of what you've been practicing at all. Just pull hard, but don't pull hard too hard. Because if you pull too hard, you're going to drop it behind you. Like, I'd have these like stupid thoughts. So on that third attempt at American Open 2, I said, "Listen, think of what you've been like." This is seriously what I thought in my head when I was walking into the bar. I mean, I was having a full blown out conversation with me, myself. I said, pull hard. Don't worry about if it goes behind you. The last thing you need to worry about is if the bar does go behind you, at least you're able to pull it high enough to get over your head. So I thought. And then the cool thing is, if you catch it, there it is. Boom, you got it. So that's like kind of what I thought about. I know I should have been thinking about like brace, chin over the bar, all these cues, but I just got to learn to be more confident walking up to the snatch in general. The clean jerk, I mean, there's no thought process. It's just, if you stand it up, you're jerking it for sure.
Yeah.
But the snatch is like my nemesis. It's like the first lift's always very nerve-wracking. The second lift is like, okay, got the first lift. Let's do the second one. All right, got the second one. Gotta get this third one. So it's cool also to see me come back, or for my self-reflection. It's cool to also see myself come back and hit the third attempt at 80. The second attempt at 80 actually, because I missed the first attempt and the second attempt I made. So it's cool to see. I'm not a very big mental person. I'm very confident mentally. Like, I don't think things fool me. Like, I don't get up there and freak out and panic. I freaking love competing. It's like my comfortable zone. And that's why I think I'm such a good athlete, because I love, like, if you put me in any, like, I was in the back lifting clean and jerks at American Open too, and I did 94 and had to bounce out of the hole twice. And I thought, oh my gosh. I was like, this is going to be bad. Got up there, did 97, had to bounce out twice. And I was like, okay, Alyssa, get your head on straight. You need 100. I don't care what you have to do. You're going to make it. So, like, freaking make it. Walked down the stage, made it easy. Walked down the stage, made 102 easy. It's mental, right? It's just, I have that mental ability to just turn it on when I need it. I don't. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so during a training practice, so outside of competition, and then in the warm-up room, what's your self-talk like, and how are those different? So during training and then during the warm-ups for your first attempt?
It depends on what meet I'm at. If I'm at a huge international meet, I'm kind of like, I know there's a lot of expectations, there's a lot more pressure, so I'm a little more like, it's weird because I'm a little more reserved. When I'm at a meet like this last weekend where it just didn't really matter, I was like, woo! Yeah, let's go! Like, nothing mattered. Like, I was like, let's just hit some weight. So I think I definitely need to transfer that energy into international competitions. But in the back warm up, I kind of know how I am. Like, snatches will be super sharp in the back, super perfect. I get on stage and they're like a mess. I don't know what happened. So I tried to fix that, and I have been successful at fixing that. But like clean and jerk, I'm terrible in the back. I have no juice. And then as soon as I get on stage, it's like, hello, Alyssa, I've entered the competition. It's like, the self-talk in the back is just like, let's just hit this lift, just be sharp, and, focus on the next one. So it's like one lift at a time. I don't think of like my third lift when I'm going up there to hit my opener. Like, my self-talk in the back is just get through your warm-ups, trust yourself, and then out on the stage, it's like, let's just freaking get after this and let's do it. You've trained so hard, there's no reason why you shouldn't be making lifts.
Okay. That's interesting, because there are a lot of people now with the introduction of the American Open Series that are experiencing national level meets for the first time. So it's quite a big change for them, because you have so many more people competing, and it changes the amount of time in between attempts, and it changes the way you warm up, and you do all of these different things. You have to travel. So I think that's a little bit of it's good insight for them, because a lot of people think like the first time they compete, the warm-ups don't go great, like that spells bad all over. But sometimes that's just the way it works. And sometimes that may be from meet to meet. You just notice that your clean and jerks aren't always sharp in the back, and you need the crowd, and you need the lights from the judges.
Don't sell yourself short because your warm-ups just because you missed 65 and you're going to go open with 67 doesn't mean you're going to miss 67 on stage. Maybe 67 you could power it because you have so much adrenaline from the audience, right? It's like that 100. It was all of a sudden like, click, it turned on. it was like, wow, Alyssa, that was the easiest 100 you've ever done in your whole entire lifting career. Like, same with 102. It was like, I was shocked. I mean, if you could have gotten a close-up of my face, it was like complete utter shock when I stood the 102 up. I was like, wow, this is happening. So, like, don't ever sell yourself short because something doesn't fall right in the back. Like, you got to turn it on. Like, there's no choice. If you want to be there and if you paid to be there and if you worked so hard to get there, why not turn it on when you get on stage? Because that's your time. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You may never get another one. So when you're up there, just compete and have fun. Like, and I'm learning that too. Like, at American Open too. Like, my clean and jerk warm-ups were terrible. Every girl kept, like, being on the platform. So there was a technical stop after every clean and jerk. So my clean and jerk, I think I sat like 5 minutes from 90 to 94 kilo jump in the back for warm up. And I took 94, and that's when I had double bounce. And I was like, holy crap, this is not good. But I was like, I just changed my attitude. When I sat down in that chair to go out to the stage to hit my 97, it was time to turn it on. You have to learn that. It's not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to have the best warm-up. You're not always going to have the best circumstances. There are going to be days where it's just completely terrible. But you never know what's going to happen when you get on that stage. Ever.
Yeah, that's if anybody takes anything away from this podcast, it's that. Like, you don't know what's going to happen until the weight's on the bar and you're setting up and then you start the lift. So kind of the flip side of that was like a high for your competitive career. During your time in weightlifting, has there been any moments that were like really hard to come back from? Maybe like a bomb out of a major competition or something like that, or just something that was really tough for you mentally?
Sure. Pan Am's 110%. And I finally have become very not bitter about the situation. If anybody was in that back room, it was terrible. It was the worst meet of. It was not fun. There was so much miscommunication by the coaches in the back that, like, nobody even knew the 48 kilo session B total. So, like, there's A and B session, right? There's 48 kilo A's and there's 48 kilo B session. B sessions went earlier in the morning and competed. So nobody knew, none of the coaches knew the total for the women in the B session. At least that's what I've heard. And now people are changing, saying like they knew it, but they didn't know the rule applied this way, and blah, blah, blah. So no one knew that total. So what happened was they opened me at the same lift. So I got fourth in the snatch, and I went on the clean and jerk and opened with 94. The girl in the B session hit the same snatch I did, 77. She hit 94 kilo clean and jerk. So there was her total. She hit it first in the B session in the morning. She got credit for it before I did. Well, I guess this is what they thought. They thought that because she hit 94 on her third lift or whatever, I would get credit because I opened it. With it. Blah, blah, blah. So I missed 98. They called a press out. I don't know if it was really a press out. We didn't get to see it run on. It didn't feel like a press out, but no, I wasn't the judge. It was just, there's just so many. I lined up to get a third place medal, and then they tore me out of the line because they were like, oh no, sorry, Cuba got third. My bad. And I was like, It was kind of like, okay, first you didn't do good in clean and jerk, and it fell apart, but you did your best ever snatch like performance of 48 kilo. Like, you just crushed it. I felt like I could have hit 80 on that day, but we didn't go that heavy. So clean and jerk's my jam. So I thought, holy cow, I have this in the bag. I mean, I was would have, could have, should have, right? I'm not to be one of those people. I should have walked out of there with a gold medal in my hand. And it ended up not even coming to that. The best total ended up being, I believe it was 177. And I hit that at Worlds. And if I would have hit 100 kilo clean and jerk, it would have happened. I missed it on my third attempt. But like, if I would have just hit 98 for a repeat, which I told my coach I should have hit 98 again, I would have walked out with silver medals. Granted that I hit the lift. So it was frustrating because like I had not a lot of say in what I put a lot of work into. I feel like it should be very equal. It should be my meet and their meet. If they thought I was secured for third, that's why they went for the 100. Instead of getting fifth, so they thought, it's okay, we'll take a hit, we'll get third. But I didn't have third, I had fourth. So they didn't know that. So it was a really hard meet.
How do you bounce back from that?
Oh my goodness, man. It took me a minute. It really did. I was so... Hopefully Max never listens to this. No, I'm kidding. He knows. I was really frustrated. I looked him in the eyes and hands and I said, this is the most frustrated I've ever been in my career as an athlete because I know what I was capable of and nobody listened to me. I felt like nobody wanted to hear me out. Then after we attempted the lift, Ben Piros came out to me. He's like, "You're right, buddy. You should have hit 98."
Ooh. And
I was just like, "What?" It was kind of like a jab to the face. Like, you're right, but we don't want to listen to you. But we're a team back there. At the end of the day, they're my coaches. They run me. They run my numbers. Max has seen me in the gym a million times. He knows what I'm capable of, and he knows what I'm not capable of. So the bounce back from that, it was a big hit in my weightlifting career because I was like, gosh, that was really hard. I was the weight cut was perfect. I mean, perfect. The snatch session was the best snatch session I've ever had. I felt so good. I loved the humidity in the air at the Dominican Republic. Everything was spot on. And then the one thing that I thought I never would do bad on was the one thing I did bad on, and it was the clean and jerks. So it was really, really hard to see something I'm so successful at, I failed and lost medals because of it. But like my boyfriend said, which was really cool, that medals don't define your successes. Successes, there's so much more. There's such a more broad definition of success. If medals are the only thing that are going to define my successes, I might as well just quit. That's not who I am. I'm not going to let a medal define me for my success. That's it. That's how I bounced back because I knew I'm strong. I'm better than that. I can be better than that, and I proved it this last weekend.
Yeah, that's very powerful. And I noticed that we're kind of coming up on time here, and I don't want to hold you too much longer. So I do have a few questions that are the last couple of the podcast. So the first question, besides the physical improvements from weightlifting, so getting stronger, faster, bigger muscles, do you think it would be useful for everyone to try the sport?
Oh yeah. So it's just like gymnastics, kind of. It gives you that base. It helps you with balance, speed, coordination, all these different things, agility. Weightlifting is very much like that. It's a lot of body awareness, and I think any sport that gives you a bunch of body awareness is definitely something you should try. It's not as popular back then as it is now, so I think people will see it more as a helpful sport for another sport. I think it's definitely good for certain parts, right? A football player is not going to do a snatch, but they'll do a power clean in a jerk. That's fine, but they're not going to snatch. There's no reason for them to snatch. It's not a good movement. But yes, I think weightlifting definitely correlates to a lot of helpful power and strength and abilities for the sports.
So what has taking up the sport done for you? And I know you can obviously say it's helped support you and helped kind of put you in a position where there's not a lot to worry about besides training. But mentally, how has the sport helped you develop as a person?
I just love I like it. I mean, it's that sport. It's just a different sport. It's just different. I love this. The best part of the sport, actually, I know exactly, is my strength. Being strong and muscular, and being able to walk out in public with a cut off, shirt on, like right now, and people like, oh my gosh, your biceps look amazing. Oh, I wouldn't mess with you. You're too strong. Or like, wow, you look great. Or you get the stares that you just, you don't know what they're thinking. Maybe they're thinking you're absolutely stunning, or maybe they're thinking, wow, that girl looks like a boy. I think the best part of weightlifting is just like the strength, the feeling of being strong. Like, I've never ever in my entire life felt this strong, and it's the coolest feeling I've ever felt, and it's the coolest thing. And it's so cool to see my butt. It's like when I'm lifting just as much as women are lifting out there that are like twice my size, I'm like, that's cool. So yeah, I think it's just the aspect of like being so strong for my size. I never thought my body would be able to be this strong, and it is.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people, I mean, maybe they get it, but I've talked to a few people recently about this. Like, there's no better feeling than just feeling strong. And when you walk out in public, like, it's something that's carried with you everywhere you go. It's not just in the gym, I hit a PR, I'm stronger. It's like, there's this confidence that comes along with it.
Totally.
And like, it changes the way you interact with people and the conversations. And I like to think that it helps the people that you talk to, because you're more confident and it rubs off on them, and they become a little happier and more confident in themselves.
It's funny when people like are eating fast food. Like today, my neighbors did it. They're like, "Oh, we sat inside to eat our McDonald's." I was outside with the dogs when they were playing. I'm like, "Oh, we sat inside to eat our McDonald's because we didn't want you to see us doing it." And I was like, "It's fine. Like, I don't judge you for eating McDonald's. That's your choice. That's your body." So it's funny how people do. Like, they really, when you walk around, you give off this presence of like fitness and about being healthy, and people like, I don't want people to feel guilty, but they want to like, it's like they almost want to like improve their lives, but they just don't know how to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you're kind of like that, like role model. Like, ever since I moved here in Ohio, I've noticed people around me are like starting to like kind of work out more. My boyfriend said since he started like bringing, like, he's always brought his lunch, and he usually brings like very, like, pretty much the same thing. It's either a salad or like rice and chicken or something, and a yogurt. He said he noticed the guys around him bringing the same food, like starting to bring the same food. Like every week their lunch would change but get better. So it's really cool the influence you have on people, and you just don't know it.
Yeah, and I think that's something important to keep in mind for everyone, good or bad, right? Because sometimes when we want to act out, maybe something doesn't go our way, and you have to remember that you're a role model, and sometimes it's better just to take it in stride instead of like letting it yourself become a little emotional or carried away. So for the good or bad, like we're always influencing the people around us. So I think that's just an important thing to always consider.
Really.
Okay, and then the very last question before we let you tell our listeners where you can find them. What is one thing that people can do each day to become a better person?
Just believe in yourself and do you. Like, be who you are. And if nobody agrees with your goals or dreams or aspirations, go after them. Because everybody's going to have a different opinion, and everybody's going to want to lead you in a different way. But whatever you want, totally go for it. Because it was the coolest thing to go after something you truly love to do, whether it's being a doctor or being an engineer or being a weightlifter or being a CrossFit athlete. Just go after it, regardless how long it takes. If you want it that bad, you will go after it until you get it.
Yeah, and there's no shame in whatever that is, whatever you choose it to be.
No, because I know a lot of people with a bunch of money and it doesn't make you happy. So it's not about the money, it's not about the fame, it's not about the followers. It's about what you're doing and your passion. That's it. Like, that's what makes you happy in life. It's like being truly happy with where you are in your life.
Yeah, I think you said it earlier, but those things don't stick around. Like with the medals, like those things are incredibly fleeting, and the next thing you know, it's just something hanging on your wall collecting dust. But like the self satisfaction or the idea that you did something you wanted to do changes your character, and that's kind of something you're going to have to live with forever, right?
Yeah. The places, they never remember the places, what you got in the meet, right?
Mm.
You just remember the performance and the people you meet and the fun you had and how you felt. And,
right.
You know, those kind of thoughts in your head. Like, that's what I remember. I don't always remember exactly what place I got. I just remember, oh my gosh, that moment I went up onto roach snatch, I was thinking of this, and then it just happened. So it's like, that's what I remember.
Yeah. So, Alyssa, I want to thank you again for joining me today. So as far as contact information goes, you said you were starting to help people with nutrition. So maybe you can give us your YouTube channel name, where people can find you for coaching, and maybe your Instagram handle and whatever else you have in the works.
Yeah. So first, you can find me or ask me any information about the nutrition dieting plan so it's my email, Alyssa Ritchey 15@gmail.com. You can also find that in the link in my bio for my Instagram, which my Instagram handle is @AlyssaRitchey1, the number 1. And then I have a website that will not like super hardly working, but you can go www.alyssaritchey.com and you can get my email, I believe, off there too. But the best way would be my Instagram, Alyssa Ritchey1.
Okay, and I will put all of that information in the description box below. So if you guys have any questions for Alyssa, feel free to reach out. If you if you're interested in changing the way you eat or changing your nutrition for performance or something like that, reach out to her as well.
Yep, lifestyle, cutting weight, gaining, whatever you want, I got it.
Yeah, and just from this conversation, I'm sure there's going to be a lot there besides the nutrition. Obviously, Alyssa has a lot to offer as a person, and seems to have a lot of things she can share with everyone. So again, guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Philosophical Weightlifting Podcast. If you like the podcast, like, share, subscribe, leave a review, and I guess we will catch you guys next time. Thanks.